Long before I became a mother, I never thought twice about running to the store after dark. It was something I did on autopilot. Grab some snacks, pick up cold medicine, maybe wander the aisles a bit just to feel like I was doing something with my life. But after Hazel was born, the world changed. Or maybe I just started seeing it more clearly. The way men stared a second too long. The way every noise at night felt like a threat. The way being alone wasn't peace. It was a risk. I used to be a nurse, ER. I was good at staying calm in a crisis, thinking fast, keeping my hands steady when everything else was chaos. But after Hazel, and everything that came with her birth, panic attacks, the depression, the nights where I'd stare at the baby monitor and convince myself I was failing her, I quit. My husband, Marcus, supported it. He was a mechanic, worked long hours, always trying to pick up side gigs to keep us comfortable. We had just enough to scrape by, and some days that felt like a miracle. That Tuesday night, early March, the cold air hit harder than I expected. Hazel had been crying for hours, feverish, flushed, breathing fast. I knew it wasn't serious, but it didn't matter. I needed to feel like I was doing something. Anything. Her fever had spiked to 101.9, and we were out of infant Tylenol. Our pediatrician's office had already closed, and the Walgreens by our house shut down early for inventory. Marcus's car had died that weekend, bad starter, and we hadn't had time to tow it. That left me with our dented silver Camry. No heat, no radio, and the left headlight barely hanging on. I bundled Hazel in a blanket, laid her next to Marcus on the couch, and promised I'd be back in 20 minutes. The only store open that late near us was the Family Dollar on Asheville Highway. 5 miles away, not far, but not the kind of place I ever felt safe going alone, especially not at night. That side of Knoxville had always made me uneasy. Boarded up windows, flickering street lights, and too many stories in the news that started with, "She was just trying to get home." I almost didn't go. I thought about it, standing in the doorway, keys in hand. But Hazel let out a soft whimper in her sleep, and that was it. I had to. I pulled into the parking lot at 11:05 p.m. sharp. The lot was mostly empty, just 2 cars, one parked crooked by the side, the other near the dumpster. The overhead lights buzzed and flickered like they hadn't been changed in years. I locked the car, zipped my coat, and walked in with purpose. No dawdling, just in and out. Inside, it was dead quiet. A young girl with half-bleached hair stood behind the counter, chewing gum and scrolling on her phone. Somewhere near the back, I saw a man, gray hoodie, jeans, standing by the cooler like he'd been placed there. He didn't move, didn't grab a drink, just stood. I didn't think much of it at first. I grabbed a bottle of infant Tylenol, some chamomile tea, and a few cough drops for Marcus. But when I turned down the baby aisle to grab a fresh pacifier, Hazel had thrown hers behind the crib earlier. I felt it. That twinge, that shift in the air. He was behind me, closer than anyone should be in an empty store. I told myself it was nothing, just a shopper. Maybe he was looking for something nearby. But my heart knew better. Years of nursing had taught me to read body language the way others read signs, and everything in me screamed wrong. He didn't say anything, just stood too close. When I moved to the next aisle, feminine care, he followed. Still no basket, no cart, just hands in his hoodie pocket and eyes I could feel on my back like static. I gripped the pacifier in my hand so tight the plastic cracked a little. I turned sharply to face him. "Can I help you with something?" He didn't answer, didn't smile, just turned and walked to the next aisle like I'd never spoken. My legs wanted to run, but logic told me not to panic. I walked fast toward the checkout. The girl behind the register looked up as I approached. Her name tag read Bree. I leaned in a little, trying to keep my voice calm. "Hey," I whispered. "That man's been following me through the store. He hasn't picked up a single item. Can someone walk me out?" Bree's face changed. She glanced toward the door, where he now stood again, hands in his pockets, rocking slightly on his heels like he was waiting for a bus that never came. "We're not really allowed to leave the counter," she said softly, eyes darting. "But I can lock the doors behind you. Just go fast, okay?" I nodded, paid in cash, and shoved the bag into my coat pocket. Bree didn't say anything else, but I could tell she was scared too. I gave her a tight smile and pushed the door open. The night air felt sharper now, colder. I walked fast toward my car, keys clenched in my hand, thumb hovering over the unlock button. I'd parked 2 rows down from the door, under the one light that wasn't completely dead. My foot hit a wet patch of gravel, and I slipped just enough to fumble the keys. They hit the ground with a soft jingle. That's when I heard the door slam open behind me. Footsteps. Fast. Heavy. I turned just in time to see him sprinting toward me. I screamed, loud and sharp, the kind of scream I hadn't made since childbirth. I scrambled to grab my keys, but my hands wouldn't work right. Everything was too loud. My breath, my heartbeat, the blood roaring in my ears. Then, headlights. Bright, red, fast. A truck, tires screeching. A horn blared. The man stopped mid-run. He swore, sharp and guttural, then veered off toward the dumpster and vanished into the shadows. I dove into my car, locked the doors, and shook so hard I couldn't get the key into the ignition. The red truck pulled up beside me. The driver rolled down his window. "Elena?" he called. I stared, disoriented. It took a second to recognize him. Kyle Monroe. We went to high school together. He'd been a grade ahead, quiet, kind, always wore the same camo hoodie. "I saw your car," he said. "Didn't know it was you. Just stopped in for snacks." I nodded, still shaking. "You okay?" I couldn't speak. I just cried. Back home, I didn't tell Marcus everything. I told him I got what we needed, that a guy freaked me out a little, but I left quick. I didn't tell him about the scream, the running, the headlights, the way my hands still trembled as I held Hazel to my chest. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the nursery with her, watching her little chest rise and fall. The Tylenol helped. Her fever dropped by morning. But I couldn't stop thinking about how close it had come to something else. Something much worse. The next day, Marcus called the cops to report what happened. They said without a license plate or solid description, there wasn't much they could do. Maybe check the security footage, if the store even had working cameras. Maybe. Kyle stopped by later that week. He brought groceries. Said he didn't want anything, just figured we could use the help. He didn't ask for details, just said, "Glad I showed up when I did." So was I. But I hated that I needed saving. That I'd been so helpless. That I froze. I tried to move on. I told myself not to let fear take over. But something had cracked open inside me. Some illusion that the world was basically good if you were cautious enough. That belief was gone. I started noticing things I hadn't before. Men standing too close at gas stations. Cars that seemed to follow a little too long. Every dark parking lot felt like it had eyes. I carried pepper spray. I walked faster. I looked over my shoulder more than I should. I wasn't paranoid. I was changed. I called Bree at Family Dollar 2 weeks later, just to check in. She remembered me. Said the guy hadn't come back, but she was watching now. Said she told her manager, but nothing really came of it. They never caught him. No arrest, no follow-up, just silence. 3 months passed before I went out alone at night again. I waited until it was warmer, until Hazel was completely healthy, until Marcus had fixed his car. Even then, I hesitated. I started therapy again. I told my therapist I felt weak, that I hated how scared I was, that I couldn't stop replaying it, his breath behind me, the footsteps, the keys slipping. She told me something I still hold on to. Fear doesn't make you weak. It means you survived something worth fearing. She was right. But I still flinched when someone walked too close behind me in line. One night, Marcus and I were watching TV, and he turned to me and said, "You've been quiet lately, since that night." You okay? I thought about lying, about saying, I'm fine, but I didn't. No, I said, but I will be. That was enough. I made small changes, took self-defense classes, switched our grocery runs to earlier hours, set up cameras outside. Not out of fear, but out of awareness, preparedness. I wasn't going to be caught off guard again. And I started writing again, journaling, telling my story in bits and pieces, getting it out. Because silence doesn't keep you safe. Awareness does. It's been over a year now. Hazel's walking, talking. She laughs when the wind tickles her face and says, uh-oh, every time her sippy cup hits the floor. She has no idea how close I came to not being there that night. I still go to Family Dollar sometimes, but only during the day. Bree's gone now, moved away. I asked about her once, and the new cashier shrugged. That man never came back, or maybe he did and just chose someone else. That's what scares me the most. Because he didn't want money. He wasn't high or desperate or lost. He was calm, patient. He waited. And if not for a friend who decided to stop for snacks, he might have gotten what he came for. I learned something that night. Evil doesn't always announce itself with growls and knives. Sometimes it waits, watches, picks its moment when you're most tired, most distracted, most alone. But I also learned something else. You're allowed to be scared. You're allowed to freeze. And surviving doesn't require perfection. It just requires persistence. So if you're out there, reading this, living through your own version of that parking lot moment, know this. It wasn't your fault. You didn't imagine it. And most importantly, you're not weak for surviving. You're stronger than you know. Vigilance saves lives. Trust your instincts. You don't need to be fearless to be strong. You just need to act, protect yourself, and speak out. Silence empowers danger. Awareness disarms it. You ever have one of those days where the air just feels off before you even get out of bed? That was Friday, early September. Still hot in Georgia, the kind of sticky heat that clings to your skin and makes everything feel heavier. I was home alone with my mom, who hadn't left her bedroom since Wednesday. Since the fight. Since the tears started again. We'd just moved to Athens a few weeks before. My parents finally divorced over the summer, and we left Atlanta to come stay in this tiny rental house near Lexington Road. Everything about our new place felt temporary. The peeling paint, the sagging porch, the emptiness. I was 16, a junior in high school, and suddenly the adult in the house, tiptoeing around my mother's sadness like it might shatter the floor beneath us. That Friday, I hadn't eaten since the night before. No groceries, no gas money, no energy to fight with her about getting out of bed. Around 4, I got tired of waiting and decided to walk to the Family Dollar down the road. I didn't want to go. The place always smelled weird, like bleach and sadness, but it was close, and I had 5 crumpled dollar bills in my hoodie pocket. I threw on that same old hoodie and pulled the sleeves over my hands. I wore it when I didn't want to be noticed, which was most days. Hair in a low braid, no makeup, phone in my back pocket with 1 bar of battery left. I didn't even think about pepper spray back then. I just wanted ramen and paper towels. The sun was starting to dip, casting that weird, soft golden light that makes everything look too quiet. I walked with my head down, crossing 2 overgrown lots and the edge of a parking lot full of cracked pavement and weeds. When I stepped inside the Family Dollar, the AC hit me like a slap. It was quiet. Only one cashier behind the counter, a girl maybe 2 years older than me chewing gum and scrolling on her phone, and an older man. I noticed him right away because he was just standing there flipping through greeting cards like he was reading a novel. Middle-aged, worn jeans, trucker hat, and something about his eyes that made my stomach tighten. I headed toward the snack aisle, grabbed a few packs of ramen, then circled toward cleaning supplies. And there he was again. I hadn't heard him move, hadn't seen him pass, but he was suddenly in the same aisle, looking at nothing, Pretty early to be skipping school, huh? He said with a smile that stuck too long. I gave him a polite, barely there laugh, that fake little noise girls like me are taught to use so we don't make things worse. I walked away quickly. My hands started shaking. I pulled out my phone and texted Emily, my best friend from Atlanta. Some guy's being weird. Just a heads up. No signal. Of course. I tried not to panic. Told myself I was overreacting, but I knew I wasn't. I could feel him watching me. I moved fast, picked up paper towels, turned down another aisle and hoped I'd lost him. But there he was again, this time standing by the end cap of cleaning sprays. Like he'd been waiting. "Your mom let you out looking that good?" he said. His voice was low, almost casual, but it stuck to me like oil. I froze for a second, then kept walking, pretending I didn't hear. But inside, I was spiraling. My chest tightened. My brain scrambled through all the safety advice I'd read online. Don't confront. Don't run. Stay calm. Make a scene if you have to. I headed to the front, eyes scanning for anyone else. No new customers. The cashier was still glued to her phone, oblivious. I was trapped in plain sight. Then, the door opened with a creak. In walked a tall boy, broad shoulders, cargo shorts, a Georgia Bulldogs t-shirt. I recognized him immediately. Troy something. We had second period math together. He sat in the back, mostly quiet, kind of awkward, but not unfriendly. My heart jumped. I didn't think. I just moved. I ran up to him and grabbed his arm like I'd done it 1,000 times before. "Hey babe," I said, too loud, my voice cracking. "Ready to go?" His eyes widened, confused for half a second. But then he nodded. "Yeah," he said smoothly. "Got the snacks?" I nodded back, my hand still gripping his arm. "Yep." He didn't ask questions, just walked me toward the counter, one arm casually slung around my shoulder like we were the most ordinary couple in the world. The man didn't follow. He stood still, watching, jaw tight. Then, as we reached checkout, he turned and walked slowly toward the back of the store. We didn't say a word while the cashier rang us up. Troy handed me a pack of gum, like we'd planned to buy it. I gave the cashier my money with shaking hands and took the receipt without looking up. We stepped outside into the gold-pink light of the afternoon. It felt like the sky had been holding its breath. Troy kept walking with me down the sidewalk all the way to the turnoff near my house. "You okay?" he asked gently. I nodded, my eyes burning. "Thank you. I didn't know what else to do." He gave a soft shrug. He gave off bad vibes. "I'm glad you said something." We stood in silence for a moment. I felt my breath settle. "I owe you," I said. He shook his head. "You don't owe me anything." He turned and walked back toward the store. I watched until he was gone, then ran home like my life depended on it. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was afraid of someone breaking in. That wasn't the part that haunted me. It was how easy it had almost been for something to go wrong. How no one had noticed. How the man had walked from aisle to aisle without a word from anyone. How the cashier didn't look up once. How I was completely alone until Troy walked in. One more minute. That's all it would have taken. I told my mom the next morning. She was sitting on the couch, wrapped in her robe, clutching a half-empty cup of tea. I gave her the short version. Guy followed me. Troy helped me get out. She hugged me hard and didn't say much, but her eyes filled with that broken look she'd been carrying since the divorce, that helpless, hollow expression. I realized something then. I couldn't always depend on adults to protect me. My mom loved me, no question, but she wasn't present. Not really. Not anymore. So I made a decision. I found a small can of pepper spray online, $20 with shipping. I paid for it myself with babysitting money. I told myself I'd never let myself be caught off guard again. That store? I haven't gone back. Not once. But I walk taller now. I pay attention. I remember that panic and I use it, not to live in fear, but to stay prepared. The following Monday, Troy nodded at me in the hallway. No big smile, no awkward, "Remember me?" Just a small nod, like we'd survived something together. I nodded back. We didn't talk much after that, but he always looked my way in math. I guess that's just how it is when someone saves you in the smallest, biggest way possible. You don't need words, just a shared understanding. I started carrying a notebook everywhere. Started writing down what I felt, the fear, the weight of pretending everything was normal, the guilt that I hadn't said anything to the cashier, or reported it, or screamed. But then I wrote the truth. I didn't freeze. I survived. And that counted. I shared it with Emily over text. She sent back, "You're brave as hell." I didn't feel brave. I felt changed. I started noticing other girls in the hallway, the way they glanced over their shoulder in the parking lot, the way their laughter dimmed when a group of guys walked past. I wondered how many of them had their own family dollar moments. How many had been followed, cornered, whispered to by strangers who smiled too long. I never told Troy thank you again. But one day, I slipped a note into his locker. It said, "You noticed when no one else did. I won't forget that." He never mentioned it, but the next time I passed him in the hall, he grinned. That was enough. It's been almost a year. I still carry pepper spray. I still look over my shoulder in quiet stores. I still wear that old hoodie on bad days. But I also walk with my chin a little higher, because now I trust myself. I know what it feels like when something isn't right. I listen to that voice, the one in my gut that tells me to move, speak up, run if I have to. That's not fear. That's survival. That's instinct. And I've learned to respect it. I talk to other girls about it now. I write short pieces for the school paper. I give them my story, piece by piece. Not to scare them, but to remind them that they're allowed to act without proof. That creepy doesn't need a weapon to be dangerous. And I tell them this: you're not rude for protecting yourself. You're not dramatic. You're not crazy. You're smart. You're strong. You're prepared. Because sometimes the scariest moments don't happen in dark alleyways. Sometimes they happen at 4 in the afternoon under flickering fluorescent lights and shelves full of off-brand cereal. But you're not powerless, not anymore. Sometimes danger hides in plain sight, and survival means trusting your gut, speaking up, and never apologizing for protecting yourself. Strength isn't about fearlessness. It's about knowing when to act even when your voice shakes. I didn't grow up imagining I'd one day have to look after my little sister. I left Rockford right after graduation, determined to be done with the cold streets, the endless arguing at home, the sense that I never belonged. I thought I'd never return, but 2 weeks ago life changed. Mom walked into the pharmacy, started shouting at the pharmacist, and insisted on lying down in traffic. Diagnosed with bipolar disorder, she was admitted immediately. My name was still on emergency contact, so I landed back in Rockford, into her rental on 11th Street, the same saggy 2-bedroom where I grew up, and inherited the job of adult for Chloe, who's now 14, and hates my guts. Chloe pulls hoodies up over her ears and spends half her time scrolling TikTok. Exactly the kind of teenager I barely recognize. She's moody, distant, angry at the world for breaking apart around her. I barely make ends meet waiting tables evenings and cleaning shift at the diner mornings. Same routine I've been stuck in for months. Sleep is rare. Showers feel luxurious. My hands shake quietly when I look at the dwindling numbers in my bank account. That Sunday night in late October, I was determined to make something, anything work. Chloe had a school project due Monday. Poster board, markers, glue sticks. We had none. So, with my debit card flashing a measly 1732, I dragged her by the wrist into my Civic and drove the few blocks to Family Dollar under a cold, dusky sky. Inside, fluorescent lights flickered like the place was on its last breath. Speakers crackled out tinny pop music, and Greg, the sunken-eyed cashier, looked like he'd been pulled back from the dead. I handed Chloe markers and poster board and told her to stay close, but she wandered off to the snack aisle anyway, earbuds in, scrolling. That's when I spotted the white van, idling near the corner of the lot, engine running, windows cracked. I pressed my forehead to the glass. 2 men inside. They weren't watching traffic, they were watching her. My pulse slammed. I called her over quietly. "We're going," I hissed. She looked up, confusion and annoyance flitting over her face. "Why?" "Just trust me." We approached checkout, where I tapped my card and it declined. Again. Each time my cheeks warmed with rising panic. That's when Greg leaned in. "That man's been hanging around," he whispered. "Side exit. Go that way. I'll keep the front locked." I forced a shaky nod, grabbed Chloe's hand, and walked the length of the store away from the flannel-clad man who lingered. I pushed through the side door and froze in the sudden cold. No one followed. Chloe's grip tightened around my wrist, but she said nothing. We dashed through the lot past the van, now silent, its lights off. The driver's door creaked open. I slammed the Civic into reverse without checking anything, tires squealing. Inside, Chloe passed me the markers. My hands shook, my back ached, my head ached. I drove until Walmart's neon lights flickered onto my windshield and pulled in. And then, tears came. My forehead smashed into the cool wheel as I cried behind the dark glass. Chloe climbing into the passenger seat with her own tears, the silence between us a hollow space filled with fear. Lesson 1. You don't have to be a parent to know terror. The police showed up 15 minutes later. Officer Barnes and Officer Liu asked me what happened. I told it. The van, the watching, the flannel guy. They filed a report, took down my card decline, the groceries. But I saw the look when I said the man hadn't done anything physical. Like they saw me as overreacting. I wasn't. Their questions sounded like tests of whether I was really in danger. When they left, I made coffee for me and Chloe in the apartment we're sharing. It smells like old pizza and damp laundry. She sat at the little kitchen table, forehead on arms, fiddling with a marker. She didn't speak until I slipped a breakfast sandwich in front of her. "You okay?" She shrugged, scared. I shrugged too, unsure what to say. Both of us silent except for the hum of the fridge. Later, I went to the local store and bought pepper spray, a whistle, a self-defense book about situational awareness. I didn't want to be unprepared again. No hero, just someone who didn't want to feel vulnerable anymore. At school on Monday, I met Chloe in the cafeteria. She was quiet, picking at fries. "The ex," she said, not looking up. It was enough. That day, I filed a complaint with Family Dollar Corporate and reached out on Facebook Rockford community page, describing the van and man from memory. I splashed out another $50 for a doorbell camera and a cheap ring light. I had to. Mom wasn't coming home anytime soon. Walking home, I see the old diner where I work. The sign says, "Closing soon all November for the holidays." That means more hours at work, less around-the-clock vigilance. A glance at Chloe's hoodie, oversized sleeves pulled past her fingers, reminds me who I'm doing this for. I tried to act normal after that, but normal isn't what terror breaks into. I started accents, chatting with neighbors, flashing smiles at clerks, telling them about the cameras. But late at night I replayed that van, that flannel man, that moment when Chloe's face went pale and her hand tightened on mine. Chloe didn't ask about Mom. I didn't feel ready to answer. Instead, we worked on her presentation together at the kitchen table. I watched her write, saw glimpses of the 5-year-old who loved unicorns and ice cream. She's still in there. I talked to her about options, big sister style, letting her know I wasn't going anywhere. I also took a class at the community center, self-defense, twice a week. Not to get strong enough to fight, but to stay aware, clean a lock bolt quickly, demand help. I learned to scan exits, keep my keys in my fist. I got into the routine of carrying the pepper spray in my coat pocket, whistle around my neck, no earbuds walking to the bus. Chloe watched me, She started doing the same. Pepper spray clipped to her backpack, checking over shoulders. She asked about the community class. I said she wasn't old enough yet. She nodded and said fine. At night, I left the porch light on, 30-minute lights in the kitchen, random TV on. I slept in sweats, phone charged, shoes beside the bed. I called Mom daily at the hospital. She sounded better but distant, like she was rebuilding. That was enough for now. I still drop Chloe at the Family Dollar during daylight if she needs something. In winter, I take her. Those aisles don't feel like home anymore, but not like mine either. Instead, they feel like territory I've reclaimed. A month later, I got a message on Facebook. Someone claiming to be a Family Dollar employee recognized my post. The person said they'd seen the white van before, a regular hanging around the lot watching cars. They'd called the cops once, but it got no follow-up. He was gone days later, but tonight they saw the same or similar. The van had turned off its engine once the lot cleared, and a guy in a green flannel stepped inside for exactly 2 minutes, scanned aisles near the window, and left without buying anything. My stomach dropped. The flannel guy had come back. I called Officer Lou, left a voicemail, scooped Chloe up, and we headed to Family Dollar after dinner. I told Chloe to stay in the car with pepper spray hidden in her pocket. I walked in under the harsh lights, grit in my stomach. No van in lot. But I saw him, green flannel, stoic, scanning shelves like he was bookmarking us. I waited at the produce-style marker display. He stared. I stared back. My entire body hummed. I picked up a pack of glue. Without looking away, I walked to register. The flannel guy followed, 2 steps behind. I tapped my debit again. Declined. That old muscle memory. Without words, I pivoted and left the store through the front, pepper spray in hand. I pushed cold air as I stepped out, and then no one followed. I jogged to my car, locked doors, breathed. That night I filed a second police report, gave the new detail. This time they said they'd patrol the parking lot. I don't know how much they did, but I saw patrol lights from my window going past. It's been 6 months. Winter came and went. Mom's released, on medication, undergoing outpatient care. She's not the same, but at least she's home. I quit the diner's overnight shifts to be here more. Chloe's thriving. Her water cycle poster got an A, and she's smiling again. The last time I saw the flannel man? Spring. Walked across the Family Dollar lot as I locked the car at dusk, saw him glance toward me, then kept walking, as if we'd been nothing more than silhouettes on a dark evening. Now I drive Chloe to school. I walk her to the front door. I keep my pepper spray in my pocket. I sleep with my phone on a charger next to the bed and a nightlight glowing. Sometimes I catch myself waiting at the kitchen table to finish the homework she needed in October, markers dried in a bag nearby. I realize how much we've grown since then, how we keep each other safe, how ordinary life can be reclaimed. I don't want to pretend that place never shook me. It did. But I also don't want to pretend I was helpless. You don't always see the danger, but you can learn how to survive it. You don't need to be unafraid to be courageous. Protection starts with awareness, action, and speaking up. Strength isn't about never shaking. It's about rising even with trembling hands. I never meant to stay at Family Dollar this long. It was supposed to be a stepping stone, a temporary gig I picked up after walking away from nursing school during my second semester. One too many shifts at the hospital left me shaking in the bathroom, wondering why I couldn't handle what everyone else seemed to stomach. The blood, the noise, the pressure. It didn't matter why. I just knew I couldn't do it. So I took the job that was hiring the fastest. Family Dollar. That was 8 years ago. Funny thing is, after a while, you start to measure your life in end caps and sale tags. I can still tell you which brands go on sale by season, how long a box of dryer sheets sits on a shelf before someone finally grabs it, or which moms steal baby formula and which ones just cry in the diaper aisle because they can't afford either. You become numb to the numbers, but not to the people. That's what got me stuck. For me, The store was a kind of order, a place I could control. That dingy strip of linoleum tile behind register 2? My domain. The detergent section? My kingdom. I knew the regulars, knew which locals paid with change, which ones paid with snap, which ones would try to hustle candy bars back for a refund. And over time, I earned trust. Not the loud, "You're doing great" kind. The quiet trust. The kind that gets you the keys. The kind where the district manager nods once after a double shift and says, "Reliable. We like that." That's how I ended up as a key holder. You're not salaried. You don't make much more than a cashier. But you're the one who opens, closes, deals with broken lights, power outages, locked freezers, and endless boxes from trucks that always come 2 days late. You're also the one who gets called when a customer throws a fit about not being able to return batteries without a receipt. It's not glamorous, but it was mine. Then came Brad. He walked in wearing polished shoes and a leather belt like he hadn't been warned about the rats in the stockroom or the AC that wheezed instead of cooling. 27, clean cut, transferred in from some college town store in Indiana, and immediately acted like we were running a Target. I gave him a week before he started getting on my nerves. He lasted 2 days. "Erica," he said one morning as I was breaking down boxes behind the register, "you've got good customer service, but you should smile more. People remember that." I stared at him for a second. Then I said, "People also remember when you bag their stuff right." He laughed, that tight little fake one. "All I'm saying is leadership means energy." He kept saying things like that. Energy. Optimism. Let's elevate the brand. But it's hard to feel brand pride when the ceiling leaks every time it rains and you have to put a bucket under aisle 6 so no one slips on the Clorox. Still, I tried. I really did. For all my complaints, I wanted to believe there was a point to sticking it out. Maybe someday I'd make store manager, maybe get benefits, maybe finally take Taylor, my niece I've been raising since her mom OD'd, to Galveston like I promised. But all that felt a little more distant when Brad started brushing off safety stuff like it didn't matter. We kept getting groups of teenage boys coming in, loud, rowdy, never buying anything. Sometimes they'd grab dollar bags of chips and walk out without paying. One time, one of them opened a Red Bull right in the freezer aisle and drank it in front of me. "You want me to call the cops over a Red Bull?" Brad said that time. "No," I said, keeping my voice level. "I want you to back me up so they don't do it again." He shrugged and walked back to the office. That Friday, mid-June, the humidity was thick like it had weight. We had fans propped near the front door because the air conditioning was coughing again. I already had a headache from unpacking truck inventory alone since the morning shift had called out. It was 2:15 when they came in, 6 of them. Teenagers, all in hoodies even though it was hot enough to melt a candy bar in your hand. Loud, phones out, laughing too hard at things that weren't funny. I watched them spread through the store like smoke, circling instead of splitting up. That's how I knew. I tapped my walkie. "Ashley, keep your drawer tight. Brad, we need to lock the side entrance." Brad looked up from behind the counter where he was half filling out paperwork and half watching some video on his phone. "Relax," he said. "We're not security." I moved fast, walked to the side aisle, stood near the locked detergents. My stomach twisted, my fingers itched, and then I heard the crash. Not a small one either. One of the boys had kicked open the locked supply shelf. Another had pulled a dolly over and was throwing crates of detergent on it. A third was stuffing bags of pods into a trash bag. I stepped out and yelled, "Put it down, right now!" One of them turned and looked me dead in the eye. No fear, no guilt. And then he smiled. The smile threw me off more than the shove. I'd seen plenty of kids act stupid in this store, steal, run, break things. But this wasn't careless. This was rehearsed. They knew what they were doing. And they weren't scared. I stepped forward to block one of the side aisles. "You're not going anywhere with that." That's when the biggest one moved. Fast. His shoulder hit me just below the collarbone, sending me backwards into a stacked display of bleach bottles. They cracked open like eggs, soaking through my shirt and into the tile. I landed on my hip, walkie crushed under me. Wind knocked clean out of my lungs. I barely remember the rest. It was like watching a heist in fast forward. They stormed past Ashley, who was frozen behind the register, mouth open but no words coming out. Two of them barreled through the double doors, one laughing, one holding that big black trash bag like it was a trophy. Another kid kicked the side exit open so hard the rubber stopper snapped. It was over in maybe 90 seconds. Brad came out of the office like he was walking into a meeting that ran long. What the hell happened? Ashley was already on the phone with 911, voice shaking. They took half the detergent aisle, and she looked at me, still on the floor, soaked in bleach and rage. I told you, I snapped, pushing myself up. My legs wobbled. I told you we needed to lock the doors. Brad barely looked at me. You escalated. That's not your job. My job is to not get shoved into chemicals because you didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. His mouth tightened. I'll handle the police report. Go sit down. I limped to the back room, grabbed a half-used bottle of water, and sat on a box of off-brand diapers. My hands were shaking. Not from pain, but from fury. 8 years. 8 years of double shifts, holiday weekends, late-night inventory, and this was how I got treated. Like I'd overreacted. Like I hadn't just gotten assaulted in the middle of the damn store. I didn't cry, but I wanted to. The police showed up 15 minutes later. 2 officers, mid-30s, tired eyes, bulletproof vests already unbuckled like they knew this was a waste of time. They asked questions. We showed them the footage, what little we had, since 2 of the cameras were still awaiting repair from corporate. Any names? One asked. No, Brad said. But she, he nodded toward me like I was a file folder, thinks they've been in before. They have, I said. At least 3 times in the past month. They test reactions. Never buy anything. Last week one of them opened a drink and walked out. The cop sighed. Sounds like a grab crew. They hit spots with low staffing, weak protocols. Detergent's high resale. They'll sell it on Facebook Marketplace or to bodegas under the table. And what do we do now? Ashley asked quietly. He gave a helpless shrug. File a report. Forward it to your LP department. Unless someone got a plate or facial recognition gets a hit, odds are you won't see that stock again. That was it. They left. Brad filled out some generic report and disappeared into the office. I spent the rest of the afternoon scraping dried bleach off the floor. By close, I had a bruise blooming across my side the size of a cantaloupe. I drove home in silence, windows down, letting the hot Baton Rouge air burn the chemical stink off my skin. I walked into my apartment, dropped my keys, and didn't even take off my shoes before collapsing on the couch. My phone buzzed once, some district-wide memo from corporate about heightened awareness and valuing safety. I deleted it without reading the rest. The next morning I woke up and called out. I'd never done that before, not once, but I couldn't do it. Couldn't walk back into that store and pretend like any of it meant something. Brad didn't call to check in, didn't text. He marked me as no show in the system. The weekend passed in a fog. I tried distracting myself, cleaned my apartment, cooked real food, something I hadn't done in weeks, but the feeling of uselessness clung to everything. By Monday morning, I'd made my decision. I walked into the store just after noon, out of uniform for the first time in years. Brad was at the front register, face buried in his phone as usual. He looked up, startled when I approached. Erica, we were going to call you if you didn't. I handed him my badge and store keys. Don't bother. He blinked. Wait, I'm done. You're quitting? I should have quit a year ago, I said, keeping my voice calm. But I stayed. Because I cared. I kept this place standing when we had no coverage. When you didn't know what side of the building the breaker was on. When half the team walked out last fall. I stayed. And then you let me get shoved into the floor and acted like it was my fault." He tried to interrupt. I raised a hand. "I don't need a speech. I just want you to know you don't deserve this crew. And you sure as hell don't deserve me." And with that, I walked out. It didn't feel triumphant, just necessary. Like closing a door that had been swinging open in the wind for too long. A week later, I saw it on Facebook. A post from someone I used to work with at a different Family Dollar in North Baton Rouge. Same group of boys, same routine. Except this time the cashier was a 19-year-old girl working alone. They hit fast. She tried to block the door. One of them threw a bottle of dish soap. It hit her square in the head. She went down hard. The comments were full of outrage. Customers demanding more cameras. Employees begging for double staffing. Corporate issuing another bland, pre-written statement about employee well-being and commitment to community. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not crying. Not even shocked. Just numb. I hadn't thrown away my uniform yet. It was folded in a bag by the door like maybe some part of me thought I'd go back. That I'd tough it out, rebuild the pieces, make it work. But that day, I dropped it in the trash. The truth is, these stores don't fall apart because of crime. They fall apart because the people in charge stop listening. Because they treat their workers like they're disposable. Because the silence from the top becomes so loud, it drowns out the screams from the bottom. I got lucky. I got out before it got worse. But not everyone does. Courage doesn't always look like running toward danger. Sometimes it's walking away from a place that refuses to value you. No job is worth your safety, your dignity, or your silence. Stand up, speak out, and when they still don't listen, leave the keys behind. If you'd asked me a year ago what scared me, I would have given you the usual answers. Heights, losing people I loved, public speaking. You know, the safe, predictable fears. The ones you say when you're not actually afraid of anything real. But that was before the spring semester. Before I learned that real fear doesn't show up with horror music or jump scares. It creeps in through the normal stuff. A routine, a glance, a smile that stays just a little too long. I never thought I'd become someone who flinches when someone walks too close. Or someone who triple checks the locks before bed and sleeps with pepper spray under the pillow. But here I am, Ava Daniels, 20 years old, second-year psych major at Fort Wayne State. I was always the logical one in my friend group. The calm one, the one who never overreacted. That changed last semester when I had my first real brush with a stalker. Someone who didn't care about restraining orders, didn't listen to no, and somehow knew things I never told anyone. I got lucky. The police actually took it seriously. I had proof. He eventually got arrested. But the scar stayed. I stayed on campus all summer, skipped visiting home, avoided small places with bad lighting or too few exits. And for the most part, I stayed quiet. My friends got it. My roommate Kayla especially. She stopped asking why I didn't like going out, why I avoided parking lots and corner stores, until one rainy October afternoon when she convinced me to go with her to Family Dollar. Just a quick run, she said. 5 minutes. What could possibly happen? What happened next wasn't a horror movie. There were no monsters or ghosts, just a man, a regular man, wearing a hoodie, with a voice that was too calm, and eyes that didn't blink. It had just started raining by the time we pulled into the Family Dollar lot off East State BLVD. The kind of soft, misty rain that blurs streetlights and makes everything feel quieter than it should. It was a Saturday, late afternoon. Just before 6, Kayla was driving. I sat in the passenger seat, hoodie up, headphones in, but no music playing. I don't really listen to music in public anymore. I like to hear what's around me. I like to know if someone's behind me, if someone says my name. Just snacks and paper towels, Kayla promised. We'll be in and out, promise. I nodded. She was being sweet about it. She always was. She hadn't pushed me to leave campus all semester. This was the first time she'd even asked. I figured I owed her the 5 minutes. The store was busier than I expected. A few kids ran around near the toy aisle. A mom wrestled with a cart full of plastic Halloween buckets. There was an older man near the back, too, tall, wiry, wearing a dark gray hoodie and old jeans. I clocked him instantly. Not because he looked scary, just still. People move when they shop. They bend, they glance, they scan shelves. He didn't. Kayla peeled off toward the snack aisle. "You good for the towels?" I gave a small thumbs up. As I moved toward the detergent section, the man turned around. Just like that, like he knew I was there. Our eyes met for half a second, and my stomach dropped. His stare wasn't casual, it wasn't curious, it was focused, sharp. "Hey," he said, stepping slightly closer. "Haven't I seen you around before?" I didn't answer, just shook my head and moved past him. My heart had already started racing, a little faster than necessary. But I've learned to trust that feeling. He followed. "You from the college, right?" he asked. "You look like the type. Psychology, maybe?" I stopped. That's when the cold set in. Not on my skin, but inside me. That was too specific, too accurate. And I never wore anything school-branded, not since last year. I turned and walked back toward the front, looking for Kayla. I spotted her near the cooler. "Let's go," I whispered, grabbing her arm. "Now." She looked confused but didn't argue. She knew me well enough to read my face. We rushed through self-checkout. He got in line behind us. Too close, no items, just a presence. Outside, the rain had picked up. We jogged to my car. I fumbled with the keys, got in fast, locked the doors. Kayla laughed nervously. "Okay, that was creepy, but we're fine, right?" I wanted to believe her, but as I looked in the rearview mirror, I saw him still standing under the store awning, just watching and smiling. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying it in my head. The way he turned around like he'd been waiting. The way he said psychology, like he already knew. The way he smiled. By 2 a.m., I was still awake, scrolling aimlessly, eyes darting between the phone and the window. That's when I heard it. Gravel. Shifting. Our house is tucked between two others on a quiet street, mostly students and retirees. Nobody drives around this time of night. Nobody pulls up slowly and leaves their engine running. But someone had. I moved toward the window slowly, keeping the lights off. Pulled the blinds back just enough to peek. There it was. A black sedan, no headlights, engine on, parked across the street. And in the driver's seat, a figure. Still. Hoodie up. Head turned toward our house. "Kayla," I whispered, backing away from the window. "Wake up." She came out of her room, eyes heavy. "What?" "Look outside, across the street. Is that him?" She peeked out the blinds and froze. Oh my God. We sat in the living room for the next 4 hours, bat in hand, pepper spray on the coffee table, phone in my lap with campus security on speed dial. By the time we called them, the car was gone. The silence after that? It wasn't relief. It was a warning. I filed a report the next morning. Campus security was sympathetic but limited. They recommended installing cameras, gave me a brochure about personal safety, and told me to avoid walking alone at night. As if I didn't already. I went back to the Family Dollar later that week, asked to speak with the manager, told them what happened, described the man. She shook her head, frustrated. "We don't have working cameras outside," she said. "We've had issues, but corporate's slow." Great, that wasn't the end. We saw the car again, once parked outside our usual coffee shop, another time on the street behind our campus library, always idle, always facing us, never getting out. I didn't wait for something worse to happen. I started carrying a safety alarm, took a self-defense class, changed my walking routes, got a second deadbolt installed. But that pit in my stomach, it never really left. Weeks passed, The car stopped showing up, but the fear had already taken root. I stopped going to stores altogether. I shopped online. I only went out when Kayla was with me. And even then, I never let my guard down. I tried to explain it once to someone. What it's like when you feel hunted but can't prove it. They said I was being dramatic, paranoid. But paranoia fades when it's wrong. It sharpens when it's right. There was no final moment, no big confrontation, no closure. That's the worst part. He didn't break in, he didn't attack, he didn't even text. He just watched. Until he didn't. But that's the thing about people like that. You don't know when they're done. You only know when they're present. Now, even when I'm safe, I still look. Because danger doesn't always approach. Sometimes it just waits for you to stop watching. It's been a year. I'm still here. Still in school. Still with Kayla, thank God. We moved to a new apartment with a secured building. We have cameras now. I carry a small knife in my bag and have my location shared with 3 people at all times. I still don't go to small stores alone. But I'm not scared anymore. Not like before. I'm prepared. I've talked to other girls who've been through things like this. It's more common than people want to admit. The smiling man. The unblinking eyes. The watcher who doesn't speak until it's too late. People ask me why I still think about it. Why it still makes my skin crawl. Because real danger doesn't always attack. Sometimes it just lingers. Quiet, watching from a car across the street. Always trust your instincts, even when no one else does. Fear isn't weakness, it's awareness. If something feels off, don't explain it away. Speak up. Leave. Protect yourself. It's better to be cautious and wrong than silent and right too late, because danger doesn't always roar. Sometimes it waits for you to doubt yourself. They say people forget things quickly now. A viral video might get replaced by another one in a matter of days, a week if you're lucky. But what no one talks about is what happens after. When the views drop off, but your face keeps showing up in people's memory like a bad reflex. I was 17 when that clip of me dancing behind the Family Dollar during my lunch break made its rounds online. It was dumb. Just me goofing around to a song I liked, alone behind the dumpster, wearing headphones. No idea someone was filming from a car across the lot. The music was tinny, the lighting was awful, and the caption read, "When you work retail and finally snap." 10 million views, 1,000 comments, none of them kind. They called me the parking lot loon, cashier crackhead, and worse. I deleted my social media, stopped answering texts, switched schools halfway through senior year and barely scraped my diploma together. And somehow I stayed at that same Family Dollar. I don't really know why. I guess if you get humiliated in a place long enough, it becomes the only place you don't have to pretend. By 25, I'd perfected invisibility. I spoke when necessary, smiled when customers looked directly at me, and mastered the art of fading into fluorescent corners. I lived with my mom in a 2-bedroom off 3rd Street. We shared bills, argued about groceries, and mostly stayed out of each other's way. Thursday nights were always slow, especially in early October when the sun dipped early and the breeze started to bite. That evening, the aisles were nearly empty, and I was counting out the till before close when the bell above the door jingled. I looked up and saw him again, the man in the gray vest. He was probably in his 40s, balding, a small beard, average build. He drove an old green pickup with rust along the bumper and a window that didn't quite close. I'd seen him a handful of times before, always around the same time, always buying canned soup, lighters, or sinus meds, things people get when they don't plan to stay long. But that night he didn't go straight for the shelves. He lingered near the entrance like he was waiting for someone, then made his way slowly to the register. "Hey," he said with a nod, setting down a can of tomato bisque and a cheap flashlight. "You always wear your hair down?" I blinked. "What?" "Your hair. Just wondering if it ever goes up. You've got one of those faces that's probably better shown off." I didn't answer, just scanned his items, hit the total, and mumbled the price. He paid in cash, exact change. When I handed him his receipt, his fingers brushed mine a second longer than necessary. "You don't remember me, do you?" he asked. I met his eyes then. Something about the way he tilted his head, like we were already in the middle of a conversation I hadn't agreed to, made my stomach twist. "I don't think so," I said quietly. "Gas station," he said. "Out by the high school. You used to work there, didn't you? A few years back." "I've only ever worked here," I replied. He smiled too quickly, like he was covering something. "Huh. Guess I've got the wrong girl." He left with a nod. The bell jingled again behind him. I stood still for a few seconds, listening to the empty aisles hum under the flickering lights. I don't know why, but my hands were shaking when I opened the till again. I told myself it was nothing. Just a confused customer, misremembered face. It happens all the time, right? But later that night, as I walked to the end of the lot where my mom was parked, I caught sight of that rusted green truck idling across the street, headlights off, just waiting. The next few nights, he didn't show. I tried not to think about it, tried not to jump every time a customer wore gray or paid in cash. But I couldn't stop looking out the front windows. I even started walking different routes home. Not because I was scared, not exactly, just cautious. Tuesday came. I walked behind the old clinic like I always used to before Mom got her new work schedule. It was faster, quieter, no traffic lights. That day, I caught a flicker of green metal parked at the edge of the alleyway, half tucked behind a dumpster. Same truck, no mistake. He didn't get out, didn't start the engine. Just sat there with the window cracked and one hand dangling over the door, watching. I didn't stop walking, just kept my eyes forward and my pace steady until I was at the main road again, where there were lights, cars, people. I didn't tell my mom. I knew how it would sound. A man you don't know might be watching you, maybe, but he hasn't said or done anything. That kind of worry gets swept under the rug fast. The next day at work, he came in again. This time, the line was long, people buying Halloween candy, last-minute dinner stuff. He waited until every other register was busy, then walked right into mine, even though 2 other lanes were shorter. "You're looking tired," he said, setting down allergy meds and 2 frozen burritos. "Not sleeping well?" I stared at the scanner. "Do you need a bag?" He didn't blink. "We used to talk more than this." "No, we didn't," I said, sharper than I meant to. His eyes narrowed, but just for a second. Then he smiled again, like we were playing some private game. Memory's a tricky thing. Sometimes it takes a jolt. He paid and left without another word. That night, I asked my manager if I could switch to mornings. She told me the schedule was set through the end of the month. "Besides," she said, "he's just a customer, Shelley. People like him talk to everyone. You're quiet. Maybe he feels safe around you." Safe. That word echoed in my head long after I clocked out. 2 days later, he brought me coffee. Gas station blend, still warm. He didn't buy anything else, just walked straight up to the register, placed the cup near the scanner and said, "Thought you might need this." "I can't accept that," I said flatly. "No strings," he said, raising his hands in mock surrender. "Just something to take the chill off." I didn't touch it. I waited until he left and dumped it straight into the mop sink in the back. That night I brought it up again to my manager. I tried to make it clear this wasn't about customer service anymore. This was about feeling unsafe. She gave me a tight smile. "If it escalates, we'll report it. But right now it's awkward, not illegal." That word again. Awkward. As if my fear was just a social discomfort to be managed, not a signal to be taken seriously. The next evening, he didn't come in. I felt relief for exactly 6 minutes, until I stepped outside at closing and saw his truck again. He wasn't parked across the street this time. He was idling in the store lot, 1 row over, pretending to look at his phone. I stayed inside for almost half an hour, sat in the break room pretending to check stock orders. I only left when 2 coworkers walked out with me. He was gone, but something in me had shifted. I didn't feel cautious anymore, I felt hunted. It happened on a Thursday. I'd opened the store that morning, early shift, first one there. We had a shipment due that never showed, so I was already irritated by the time I took my first break. I just wanted to sit down for 10 minutes with my stale vending machine muffin and instant coffee. I opened my locker and found the note. It was folded twice, tucked behind my name badge. I don't remember dropping anything. I don't remember breathing. I just stared at the paper for what felt like a full minute before I touched it. No handwriting I recognized. Just a single message. I know what it feels like to be watched. You were never alone. I just wish you knew that sooner. That was the last straw. I didn't finish my shift. I didn't call my manager. I just walked out. My legs carried me home like they didn't belong to me, like I was watching someone else from above. I sat on the couch for hours that night with every light in the apartment on, all the curtains drawn. When my mom got home, she asked if I was sick. I told her I was quitting. She didn't ask for a reason. She just nodded, as if she already knew I'd reached some kind of invisible line. I sent my resignation through email the next morning. No fanfare, no explanation. I never went back for my final check. I asked them to mail it. Months passed. I picked up temp work where I could, stocking shelves at a drugstore, sorting returns at a warehouse. Nothing that required a uniform or a name tag. Nothing that gave people a reason to talk to me longer than necessary. I stopped using my real name on applications. Started going by Rochelle B, or sometimes just R. I bought a cheap hoodie with a deep front pocket and kept pepper spray in it like a charm. I took the long route everywhere, doubled back on sidewalks, crossed streets twice if I felt a shadow near mine. Sometimes I still see trucks that look like his, rusted bumpers, tinted windows. I don't wait to find out. I don't tell anyone about what happened. There's no incident report, no official record. Just a stack of memories like frayed receipts in the back of a drawer, evidence no one asked for, and no one would believe even if they did. But I know what it's like to be followed quietly, to be noticed too closely by someone who believes they're entitled to the idea of you. I know what it's like to feel like a ghost in your own story, like someone rewrote your script and left you out of the rewrite. And worst of all, I know what it's like when no one listens until it's too late. He never came back. Or maybe he did, and I just didn't recognize him. Sometimes I think the scariest part wasn't that he watched me. It's that he made me question whether I'd seen him at all. And that feeling of being seen but never believed, it doesn't go away. Not all threats come with loud footsteps or raised voices. Sometimes they come disguised as attention, as politeness, as coincidence. But when your instincts whisper, listen, you don't owe anyone your comfort. You don't have to explain your fear to be allowed to feel safe. Trust yourself. That's the one kind of seeing no one can take away from you. They don't tell you that silence has a weight to it. It's not just the lack of sound. It's what fills the space instead. Your own thoughts, the memories that replay when the TV's off, the way your chest tightens at 2:13 a.m. because the house creaked and you're not sure if it was just the wind or something else. 3 months after I left my husband, I was still learning how to breathe again. 8 years of walking on eggshells doesn't just leave bruises on the outside. You stop trusting your instincts. You second-guess the feeling in your gut because you spent so long being told you were just too sensitive. Living alone was my choice. Necessary. But it didn't mean I felt safe. I had finally scrubbed him from my life. His toothbrush, his socks, the whiskey glasses he never washed. I changed the locks, got a dog, a little mutt named Jasper with a bark far bigger than his bite. I had routines. Yoga at 6, work emails by 8, groceries on Sunday afternoons, safe times, safe places. That Sunday in mid-July was humid in a way only Alabama understands. The kind of thick, heavy air that sticks to your neck. I needed trash bags, sponges, and one of those cheap pine-scented air fresheners. I didn't think much of it, just a quick trip to Family Dollar. I didn't know it yet, but that would be the last time I'd ever walk into a store without scanning every aisle for danger. Family Dollar looked mostly empty when I walked in. The flicker of fluorescent lights, 2 aisles blocked with orange tape, a cashier with a side braid scrolling through her phone behind the counter. And that smell. Cleaning supplies and something old beneath it. Dust, maybe. Or mildew. He was near the air fresheners, stocky and still. Buzz cut, gray shirt stretched over his stomach. I noticed him because he didn't move when I passed. Just looked. Long enough that I felt it. That awful burn at the back of your neck when someone's watching. I made myself ignore it. I had gotten good at that. I turned down the aisle with the sponges, trying to move quickly. Grab the stuff. Get out. But he was there again. Closer this time. Pretending to look at paper towels. No cart. No basket. Just standing there. And then, his voice. Low, slurred. Soft hands. Bet you keep the rest of you clean too. I froze. You know that feeling when the world kind of narrows? Like everything around you blurs except the one thing that suddenly feels wrong? I had that. My stomach clenched. My mind started shouting, leave, now, go. Don't say anything, don't look at him, just go. I turned and left the aisle without saying a word. That's when I realized the cameras weren't on. No blinking lights, just black screens above the door. He followed again. Quiet, deliberate. And suddenly I wasn't in a dollar store anymore. I was trapped in a memory, back in my old house, hiding in the bathroom after another one of his outbursts, waiting for the yelling to stop. I hated how fast my body went back there. I did what I always used to do. I made myself small, walked slowly, pretended I didn't feel the heat of him just a few feet behind. But when I turned the corner toward the front, I saw him again. He wasn't shopping. He was waiting. He stood between me and the exit, arms crossed, watching me, not with curiosity, not even anger. It was worse than that. He looked like he was enjoying it, like this was some kind of game. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. Didn't even unlock it, just hit the record button and pointed the lens toward him as I walked. He didn't move out of the way. I had to brush past him. That's when I heard it. "Bitch got teeth," he muttered, just loud enough. I kept walking. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the phone. I told the cashier. She didn't even look up from her phone. "He's in here all the time," she said, like I'd asked her where the shampoo was. "Never buys anything." That was it. No apology, no concern, no offer to walk me to my car. I sat in my car with the engine off for nearly 10 minutes, just breathing, checking the rearview mirror every 30 seconds. I didn't even cry. I felt numb, like my body had gone through something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. At home, I uploaded the video to my private Facebook. No tags, just a long caption. This isn't about what he said. It's about how small I felt, how invisible I was to everyone else. I didn't say anything clever or confront him. I just survived it. And that's the part that breaks my heart. I expected silence. Instead, my inbox flooded. Women messaged me. Some I didn't even know. One said, "He followed me to my car 2 weeks ago. I thought I was imagining things." Another said, "He parks outside the store sometimes. I never go alone anymore." I screenshotted everything, took it to the police. Turns out he had a history, a prior charge from another county, public harassment. They found him the next day, sitting outside a laundromat, just watching. They arrested him quietly. That was supposed to be the end, but it didn't fix me. A week later, I ran out of paper towels. I stood in my kitchen holding the empty cardboard tube, wondering why the thought of going back to Family Dollar made me want to vomit. I went anyway. Not because I was brave, but because I had to prove to myself that I could. that I wasn't going to let him own the air around me. He wasn't there, but a man was. Different face, older, harmless probably. And still, I flinched when he entered the aisle. I clutched my phone like a weapon. I scanned every mirror, checked every corner, because once you learn how easily normal becomes dangerous, you don't ever really unlearn it. The cashier was new. She smiled at me. "You okay, ma'am?" she asked. I nodded, lied, paid in cash, drove home. That night I walked Jasper around the block twice. Not because I needed the fresh air, but because I needed to believe I could. The world tells women to be alert, be careful, carry keys between your fingers, share your location. But no one teaches the world not to be the thing we fear. Sometimes surviving doesn't look like a fight. Sometimes it's just walking past someone who wants to scare you and refusing to disappear. Danger doesn't always wear a mask or raise its voice. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it waits. And sometimes the loudest thing in the room is what no one else hears at all. I never planned to move to Fresno, especially not the east side. I had a good rhythm going in Sacramento, steady freelance design work, a cozy studio apartment, and just enough distance from family to breathe. But when my little brother Micah got hit by a drunk driver on his way home from school, everything shifted. His left leg was fractured in 2 places. My mom couldn't leave her job in Oregon, and our dad's been out of the picture since we were kids. So, it was me. I packed up, canceled a few contracts, and moved into a month-to-month rental near Kings Canyon Road. Micah needed help with cooking, laundry, rides to therapy. The neighborhood wasn't dangerous, not really, but it wasn't home either. Strip malls, empty lots, streetlights that only worked half the time. My car stood out. My license plate was still tagged Sacramento, and people looked at me like I didn't belong. I worked from the kitchen table during the day and stayed up late scrolling through design boards and sipping cold coffee. Micah mostly stayed in bed, binging shows and gaming, which was fine. He needed time to heal. That Thursday night in December, he asked me to grab a cheap headset so he could join his friends online. He was bored out of his mind, and I couldn't say no, not after what he'd been through. I grabbed my keys, a spare 20, and threw on a jacket. Family Dollar was a few minutes away, and I figured it'd be a quick in-and-out trip before closing. That's where all this started. In a quiet little store with fluorescent lights, 2 customers, and a headset I wish I'd never picked up. It was 8:10 p.m. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a single car with 1 headlight parked 2 spaces away from mine. Inside, it was what you'd expect. Half-stocked shelves, a sleepy pop song on the overhead speaker, and the kind of stale, dry air that made your throat feel scratchy. The headset was in the back, shoved near a wall of discount electronics. As I walked down the aisle, I noticed a man already there, tall, thin, maybe early 40s. He wore a faded leather jacket and jeans stained at the knees. I caught the smell as I passed him, stale cigarettes and something else I couldn't place. He didn't say anything, but he didn't move either. I crouched down, grabbed the last wired headset from the bottom shelf and stood up. That's when I noticed he wasn't looking at the products. He was looking at me. No smile, no blinking, just watching. I turned quickly and headed to the front. The only cashier looked to be around my age. He had a buzzed haircut and a pair of headphones slung around his neck. He scanned the headset, glanced behind me, and lowered his voice. "You good?" I leaned in. "I think someone's following me. Could you maybe keep an eye when I leave?" He nodded without hesitation. "Yeah, I'll lock the doors right after." I paid and walked fast to my car. My heart pounded hard enough that I could feel it in my ears. I didn't see the man behind me, but as I pulled out of the lot, I glanced back. There he was, standing behind the glass doors, just staring. That night, after microwaving dinner and checking on Micah, I settled into my usual routine, TV low, dog curled at my feet, phone in my lap. Around 11:20 p.m., I got a text. No name, no profile picture, just a number I didn't recognize. "Nice headset. You always go cheap?" I stared at it for a long time. My first instinct was that it was spam, a scam. But my stomach twisted. I hadn't posted about the headset. I hadn't even told Micah I bought one. The only person who knew was the cashier. I didn't respond. Just blocked the number. The next night, another text. Different number. "Your porch light burned out." I ran to the front window. Sure enough, the bulb above the porch door was flickering dimly. I hadn't noticed. I told myself it was coincidence. A guess. But then came the third message, 2 nights later. "That red hoodie suits you better than the blue one." That night I'd worn the red hoodie to walk the trash out around 6 p.m. That was it. I called the police. I explained everything, starting from Family Dollar all the way to the texts. The officer I spoke to was polite, but distant. Unfortunately, unless they make a direct threat or show up again, there's not much we can do. "Can't you trace the number?" "Most likely spoofed or a burner. We'll file a report." It didn't feel like enough. I started leaving the porch light on all night, even swapped the bulb for a brighter one. I bought blackout curtains and installed a cheap motion sensor from Home Depot. Slept with my keys under my pillow next to a small kitchen knife. For a few days, nothing happened. Then one night I noticed a car idling across the street. Lights off, engine running, same shape as the car I saw in the Family Dollar lot. One headlight dimmer than the other. I turned off every light and stood behind the curtain, watching. He didn't get out. Just sat there. Engine humming. After 20 minutes, he drove off. The next morning, I went back to Family Dollar. Daytime this time. I wanted to see if he was still around. As I walked in, the same cashier looked up and immediately recognized me. "That guy's been coming in more," he said quietly. "Doesn't buy anything. Last week he asked if we sold pepper spray." "Pepper spray?" "Yeah." Thought he was joking at first, but he wasn't laughing. I filed a second report that afternoon. I packed a bag for Micah and drove him across town to stay with our cousin for a while. I couldn't sleep knowing he was in the house. Even with the lights, the knife, and the cameras, I didn't feel safe. But what haunted me more than anything was the silence. The text stopped after that. No threats, no taunts, just nothing. That should have made me feel better. Should have meant it was over. But it didn't. Because when the noise stops, that's when you start imagining worse. I jumped at every knock on the door. I kept my curtains drawn all day. I scanned every face at the gas station, every car parked too long near the corner. I got a second lock on the door. I stopped taking out the trash after dark. One night, the motion sensor tripped around 3 a.m. I checked the camera footage. Just a raccoon. But my heart wouldn't calm down for hours. I never found out who he was. Maybe I never will. But I know what he did. He took the ordinary and turned it into something I don't recognize anymore. He made me scared of the walk to my car, of a blinking porch light, of silence. I still freelance, still take care of my brother. But I don't shop alone at night. I don't open messages from unknown numbers. And I don't tell myself, it's probably nothing anymore. Because once it is something, you never forget what it feels like to be watched. Not every threat wears a mask. Not every danger comes with noise. Sometimes it comes quietly, lingering in the spaces we once felt safest. Trust your instincts. Don't wait for proof to act. The scariest thing about being followed is not knowing when it started and not knowing when it ends. Long before the police tape and press vans and the hollow apologies, there were shelves to be stocked and bills to pay. People think rock bottom is a moment, something you hit like the end of a fall. But for me, it wasn't a crash. It was a stretch of years, a slow grind, divorce, debt, working late shifts while Taylor, just 8 at the time, warmed up SpaghettiOs by herself. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with stained carpet and neighbors who fought loud enough for us to memorize their names. I did what I had to do, saved where I could, took every shift, smiled through it. It took 5 years to get that assistant manager badge at the Family Dollar on South Arlington. I earned it by unclogging toilets, calming down shoplifters, counting cash drawers at 2 a.m., and always showing up. The first time I held that plastic badge with my name on it, I cried in the break room. Not because it changed my life, but because it meant I could finally stop borrowing money from my sister every other month. Taylor turned 17 last fall. She's smart, fierce, and stubborn in a way that both impresses and terrifies me. She's taller than me now. Thinks she knows better. Sometimes maybe she does. But I always told myself that no matter what mistakes I made in life, at least I raised her with love, with fight, with the belief she could stand up for herself. I wish I hadn't taught her that last part so well. Back in early December, before the air turned bitter and the sidewalks turned to gray slush, I had to fire a guy named Thomas Rainey, middle-aged, the kind of man whose eyes you never quite trusted even when he smiled. Always wore a dingy brown jacket, talked to the younger girls like he didn't know how old he was. He got caught pocketing vape pens during a shipment. First time was a warning. Second time he was out. I wrote him up, walked him out, and thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Taylor had just started working part-time over at the Kenmore Boulevard location. A manager friend of mine owed me a favor, and I figured a job would teach her a little responsibility, give her some savings before college. I made sure to talk her up, said she was mature, dependable. She'd seen me grind her whole life. I thought she'd be safe. When she mentioned that Thomas had started showing up at her store, I got a cold feeling in my chest. Just browsing, she said. Smiles weird, doesn't buy anything. I brushed it off at first, told myself maybe it was a coincidence. But then came the second time. He talked to me, she told me on a rainy Tuesday night. Said he knew my schedule, that you trained me well. Said I looked too young to be working late. I remember standing in my kitchen, hands wet from rinsing dishes, looking at her like I didn't know her for a second. What do you mean he knew your schedule? She shrugged. I guess he's been paying attention. I called her manager, told him everything. He said he'd keep an eye out. But there was no threat, no touching, no police report, nothing actionable. Switched to morning shifts, I told her that night. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Why? Because some creep looked at me wrong? Because I said so, I snapped. I'm not scared, Mom, you're overreacting. But I wasn't. I knew something was wrong. I could feel it like a weight behind my ribs. But Taylor, God, she had my pride. She wanted to prove she could handle herself. So I let it go. I let her go back in for her next shift. That decision is the one I replay the most. Wednesday, February 7th. I remember the sky being a kind of blank gray, the kind where the light doesn't come from the sun but from nowhere at all. The parking lot out front of our store was crusted with blackened snow piles, half melted and refrozen a dozen times over. I had just finished inventory and was closing out the safe. My shift had ended an hour ago, but I lingered. Something didn't feel right. I had texted Taylor 3 times. No response. How's it going over there? Let me know when you take your break. You good? Nothing. I called once. Straight to voicemail. That's when I felt the first crack in the shell of my day. At 4:25 p.m., I told my manager I needed to take care of something across town. No explanation. Just left. Drove with the heat on full blast but didn't feel any of it. I was rehearsing a speech in my head, something about not playing tough, about knowing when to listen to your gut. But when I turned the corner onto Kenmore Boulevard, I saw it. Police cars, tape, lights, a crowd gathering across the street. I slammed the brakes so hard my seatbelt burned my chest. My door was open before the car stopped. I ran, slipped on the slush, caught myself on a parked car. I was already screaming. The cop wouldn't let me through. Ma'am, you need to stay behind the tape. My daughter works here, I yelled. Taylor Moore, she's 17, she's inside. Let me through. Another officer stepped in, younger, quieter. He asked my name, asked hers. I must have looked like an animal, eyes wide, chest heaving, mud on my jeans. He didn't tell me right away, just said, "Come with me." They walked me behind the store, into the alley, past a dumpster. That's where I saw him, Thomas Rainey, on his knees, cuffed, face bruised. Not a scratch of regret in his eyes, just blank, like none of it mattered. One officer was holding him back, another was taking photos. He didn't even look at me. They didn't let me go inside. But I saw the stretcher. I saw the white sheet. My knees gave out before I even asked the question. I knew. You never think grief will come with questions. You expect the sadness, the rage, the emptiness. What you don't expect are the interrogations, the ones you ask yourself, the ones asked by people with badges and notepads, the ones asked by neighbors pretending to care. I sat in a cold room at the precinct the next morning. Same jacket, no sleep. My coffee had gone cold on the table. "Mrs. Moore," the detective began. "Ms.," I corrected automatically. "Right, sorry. Can you walk us through what you knew about Thomas Rainey?" And there it was, the question that would come again and again. I told them about the write-ups, about the vape pens, about the way he talked to girls. I told them I fired him. I told them I'd warned my daughter's manager, that I'd told her to switch shifts. I told them everything, but it wasn't enough. It didn't bring her back. And in the quiet moments when the calls stopped and the flowers wilted and the casseroles went cold, I started asking myself a different question. Why didn't I push harder? Why didn't I drive her to work that day? Why didn't I go to her manager and demand she be pulled from the schedule? Because I trusted her. Because she trusted herself. Because we both thought being brave meant ignoring fear. The funeral was small, just family, co-workers, a few of Taylor's classmates. Her old English teacher read a poem. My sister held my hand so tightly I lost feeling. I stood beside her casket, looking at the girl I raised, the girl I failed to protect. The days after blurred together. The store gave me leave. My manager friends texted, "So sorry for your loss, let me know if you need anything." I didn't respond. I didn't want flowers. I didn't want pity. I wanted one more chance to say, "Don't go in today." Call out, "Let's go get pancakes instead." Thomas pled guilty. No trial. His lawyer blamed mental illness. The judge called it a tragedy. I called it murder. The press lost interest after 2 weeks, moved on to the next crime, the next broken mother. But I didn't move on. I still haven't. It's July now. The sidewalk outside the store is clean. The slush is gone. People smile again, laugh, buy snacks and toilet paper and toys for their kids. But I haven't gone back to work. Can't. The manager says my position's still open, but I won't walk into that store again. I started cleaning houses part-time. Quiet work, no uniforms, no shelves, no teenage employees with bright eyes and brave words. I still check the locks at night. Still wake up thinking I missed something. Sometimes I hear a text ping in my dreams and reach for a phone that isn't ringing. I keep Taylor's name tag on my dresser. Just her first name in block letters. Taylor. Still smells like vanilla lotion. Sometimes I think I hear her laugh. But it's always the silence that follows that breaks me. Not every danger comes with a warning loud enough to hear. Some evils slip in through quiet doors, through policies, pride, and the lie we tell ourselves. It won't happen to me. But it does. And sometimes, bravery is knowing when to not be strong, when to ask for help, when to pull someone back, even if they're fighting you. I taught my daughter to be fearless. I wish I'd taught her that fear is not weakness. Sometimes, it's what saves you. Let me tell you something about being invisible. It's not as peaceful as it sounds. People think isolation is a kind of peace, a quiet life away from the noise. But in truth, it's just a life where no one checks if you've stopped breathing. I wasn't always this way. But for as long as I can remember, I've been on the edge of every room, watching more than speaking, listening more than living. As a kid, I was the strange one, the quiet one. I didn't know how to make friends, and eventually I stopped trying. My world got small, then smaller. After high school, I worked a few jobs here and there, nothing that stuck. But it didn't matter because I had Duke. Duke was my German Shepherd, my best friend, my constant. He knew me in a way people didn't even try to. I used to think if someone could love a dog right, it proved something about their character. Maybe that's naive. Maybe it's the only thing I've ever believed. Duke got sick the winter before last. At first, it was just a limp, a little hesitation when jumping up. But soon it turned to dragging legs, accidents in the house, that deep dog confusion when the body betrays the mind. I held him when the vet gave the injection, watched his eyes dim. I don't think I've felt whole since. It took me almost a year to step outside again, let alone apply for a job. But when I saw the flyer in the laundromat for a part-time shelf stocker at the Family Dollar off 6th Avenue, I figured it was something. Mornings only, no rush, no teenage crowds, just inventory and silence. Marla, the manager, hired me on the spot, said she liked people who didn't talk much, said they got more done. I think she felt sorry for me, but I took the job anyway. Pity can buy groceries just like pride. I liked the job. It wasn't glamorous, but I didn't need it to be. Routine is its own kind of medicine. There was something about the way shelves lined up, the quiet rhythm of it. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't just surviving, I was functioning. But that changed the morning he showed up. It was a Tuesday, around 11:35 mid-April. The store was empty. Overcast sky outside, just enough light to cast long shadows between the aisles. I was refacing some dog food cans when I noticed him. Tall, maybe mid-40s, pale, dark clothes, sunglasses on indoors. He stood by the treats, not looking at anything. When I passed, he said, "You look like a dog guy. German Shepherd, maybe?" I froze. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Had one. Not anymore." He stepped a little closer, dropped his voice like it was something intimate. "They're prone to degenerative diseases. It starts in the hips, moves to the spine. You can see it coming, but you can't stop it." I stared at him. How could he know that? "You ever wonder why they get it so often?" he asked. "It's like they're built to break." Then he turned and walked off. Didn't buy anything. Just vanished through the front door. I stood there, my hands still on a can of Alpo, heart hammering in my chest. That was the first time I saw him. And I should have trusted my gut right then. When you've spent most of your life disconnected, you start relying on instincts more than people. You feel things more than you understand them. And what I felt that day lingered deep in my bones, like a warning siren without a sound. I told Marla about him. I didn't even know how to explain it right. Just said, some guy was in the pet aisle, said weird stuff, knew I had a dog. Marla barely looked up from her paperwork. "We get weirdos, just ignore them. You need to finish zoning aisle 6. That was it. I tried to tell myself she was right. Every store has its regular creeps, people who just hang around. Maybe he was guessing. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe the universe was playing tricks on someone who'd been alone too long. But then he came back. 2 days later, same time, same aisle. He didn't speak to me this time, just stood near the dry food, sunglasses on, hands in his jacket pockets, not touching anything. I ducked behind the paper towels and waited for him to leave. After 10 minutes, he just walked out. Third time was a Saturday. I remember because weekends were busier and I thought the crowd would keep him away. It didn't. He stood near the chew toys this time, just close enough to see me. When I looked at him, he smiled like we shared some secret, but I didn't smile back. That night, when I was closing down, I found something tucked between the dog beds. A note. Folded once. No envelope. Pain has patterns. Some dogs just suffer quieter than others. So do people. That was when something cracked open inside me. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak in my apartment sounded like a footstep. Every passing car, a threat. I kept the note in a drawer, not sure if I was more scared of throwing it out or reading it again. Over the next few days, I started arriving late. I couldn't focus. My hands shook when I tried to sort product. Marla noticed. "You all right?" she asked one morning gently. I nodded. Just tired. I couldn't tell her I was being watched, that some stranger had carved out a space in my mind like a nail in soft wood. She wouldn't believe me. Hell, I barely believed me. But the man kept coming, and I stopped pretending everything was normal. There's a moment when fear stops being a feeling and becomes your environment. Like air, like light. You wake up with it. Eat with it. Try to ignore it while it hums in the walls around you. By the time he came the 5th time, I was ready to quit. It was Thursday. I arrived 10 minutes late, already sweating. I walked past the front windows and there he was, just standing outside. No sunglasses this time. His eyes, sunken, gray, unreadable, locked on me. He didn't smile, didn't move. Something in me just broke. I turned around. I didn't clock in, didn't tell Marla. I just walked away, past the dumpster, across the alley, all the way back to my apartment. I sat on the edge of my bed for hours, coat still on, hands clenched. Later that night, I packed a small duffel. Just clothes, some money, my notebook, a photo of Duke. I left a note for the landlord and disappeared. Didn't tell anyone, didn't say goodbye, just left. I took a bus out of Des Moines the next morning. No destination in mind, just away. I ended up in a small town 2 states over, rented a room above a diner, worked odd jobs, dishwashing, janitorial work, nothing permanent. I paid in cash when I could, kept to myself. And still I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up thinking I heard a bell chime, a footstep. That voice, low and matter-of-fact, whispering things no stranger should know. I saw Duke in dreams, always in the aisles of Family Dollar, standing but not moving like he was frozen in time. His legs failing him, his eyes pleading. Sometimes I woke up crying, sometimes not. I never saw the man again, but I carried him with me. It's been 6 months. I don't talk much, still don't have a permanent address, but I've stopped running. I found a job at an animal shelter, cleaning kennels mostly. I don't mind. Dogs are honest. If they like you, you know. If they don't, you don't have to guess. One of them, Charlie, is a senior shepherd with cloudy eyes and stiff legs. I sit with him on my lunch breaks. I tell him things I haven't said aloud in years, like how I used to believe silence was safety, or how sometimes the things that break us don't wear masks. They don't need to. They just smile and wait. I still keep that note. I carry it with me like a scar. Pain has patterns. Yeah, it does. But healing has them too. They just take longer to learn. Some pain doesn't arrive with a scream. It seeps in, quiet, polite, familiar. Sometimes the thing that haunts you isn't a man but a memory, or a moment you ignored. Trust your instincts. Silence isn't always peace, and loneliness doesn't protect you. It only hides you. The people who survive aren't the ones who stay quiet. They're the ones who speak, even when their voice shakes, even when no one's listening. I've always been a morning person. There's something steady about opening the store before the sun fully warms the sidewalk, when the air still smells like wet concrete and quiet. I'd been working at Family Dollar for almost 6 years, first as a part-timer, then full-time, and eventually assistant manager. It wasn't the kind of job that impressed people, but it was mine. Familiar, predictable, and after Riley left, predictability became my survival strategy. Riley. God, even now saying his name stirs something inside me I wish I could forget. We were together 3 years. Lived in a 1-bedroom walk-up just off Gordon Street. He was charming when he wanted to be. knew how to talk to people, how to make you feel like you were the only person in the room. He was also the kind of man who'd disappear for hours without a text, who'd get distant if you asked too many questions, who smiled while lying straight to your face. 5 months ago, he vanished. I came home from my shift and the apartment was quiet. His shoes by the door were gone. So was his laptop, a duffel bag, and every photo of us from the fridge. The only thing he left behind was the spare key on the kitchen counter. No note, no call, nothing. That kind of abandonment doesn't come with closure. You just, try to keep breathing. I buried myself in work, picked up extra shifts, rearranged displays, cleaned aisles that didn't need cleaning. It was easier than thinking. Valentine's Day was around the corner, and the store was filled with heart-shaped nonsense. Plastic roses, overpriced chocolate, stuffed bears that said, "I love you." It all made my skin crawl. It was Monday morning around 9:30 a.m., and I was stocking laundry detergent in aisle 4 when it happened. I heard the bell over the door, looked up instinctively, and there he was, Riley. He didn't walk in, just stood near the entrance, half shadowed by the cloudy morning light. Denim jacket, same faded boots, but there was something different in his eyes. Not the boyish mischief I used to know. Something colder, like a stranger wearing his face. I blinked. He turned and walked away. I stood there for a full minute, heart hammering, unsure if I'd imagined it. But I hadn't. An hour later, this older woman came up to the counter, looked about 70, hair tucked into a knit cap, walking slow. She placed a small red box on the counter. "Want to return this?" she said. My granddaughter didn't like it. It was a ring, cheap-looking, silver band, dull stone, nothing fancy, but something tugged at me. After she left, I checked the morning's transactions. Only one ring had been sold. It wasn't that one. The one that sold was $180, one of those fake diamonds we keep locked up. The one returned wasn't it. Someone had done a swap. I went straight to the security room, pulled up the footage. There he was. Riley, hoodie up, standing behind the woman. He paid in cash, never looked at the camera. The woman did all the talking. I filed a report, called my district manager too. They told me not to jump to conclusions. Said it could be a coincidence. But I knew Riley. This was a message. He knew I'd see it. And he knew I'd know. The next morning, I found a note under my windshield wiper. Folded once, no envelope. Just 5 words in familiar handwriting. Should have kept your mouth shut. Beneath it, in smaller print, some things aren't meant to be returned. My hands shook, my stomach twisted. I called out sick for the rest of the day. And I didn't sleep that night. You learn real fast what kind of fear lingers. It's not the loud kind. It's quiet, slippery, a shadow that follows you in daylight. Tuesday morning, I sat on the edge of my bed for 15 minutes before forcing myself to get dressed. I kept looking at the note. Should have kept your mouth shut. That wasn't just a message. That was a warning, a taunt. I went in anyway, told myself I was being paranoid. I needed the hours. I needed to feel in control of something. By noon, the store was slow. A couple of regulars came in. Ms. Penny from the laundromat, a teenage kid trying to buy a vape battery with food stamps. I was about to restock shelf tags when I saw him again. Riley. This time, he came inside. He walked straight through the automatic doors like he belonged there. No hoodie. Just that denim jacket, that same cocky walk. He looked around like he was taking inventory. Then he saw me, smiled. "Missed this place," he said, casual. "Still feels like home." I stepped back, tried to keep my voice calm. "You need to leave." He took a step closer. "You still lock your window at night?" His voice was low, smooth. "Just wondering." I didn't answer. My hand slipped under the counter and pressed the panic button. He smiled again, then turned and walked out. Just like that. Police showed up 8 minutes later. I gave them everything. The video, the note, the return. The officer, Tallman, I think his name was, seemed genuinely concerned this time. "This guy's trying to mess with you," he said. "Next time, don't wait. Call right away." I didn't go home that night. Slept at my cousin Gina's. I was too afraid to be alone. My mind kept looping back. "You still lock your window at night?" How would he know? He hadn't been in that apartment for months. Unless he'd come back before and I hadn't noticed. I started checking every lock, every curtain, every inch of my life. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. This was survival. By Friday, my district manager finally called me back. "Take some leave, Issa. We'll cover the store." I didn't argue. I was jumpy, unfocused, flinching at every creak. I needed the time. But part of me didn't want to stay home. I started going to the diner on 15th Street, sitting near the windows, drinking bad coffee just to be around people. I hated how Riley had changed me. I wasn't myself anymore. I was just reacting. Saturday morning, around 8 a.m., I got a call from Officer Tallman. "We picked up someone loitering behind the Family Dollar dumpster," he said. I sat straight up. "Was it him?" "Yep," he said. "Name's Riley. We found a bag with him. Zip ties, hunting knife, pepper spray." My mouth went dry. He continued. "He said he was looking for cans, but we're not buying it. He's in custody now. We're filing charges, stalking, harassment, attempted theft, maybe more." It felt like a weight lifted, but also like I'd been hit in the chest. He was going to come back. Again, with zip ties, with a knife. God knows what he was planning. I gave my full statement, everything from the ring to the note to his words at the register. They listened. This time they believed me. That night I cried in the shower for 30 minutes straight. Not because I was scared, because I had let someone like him in. They offered to transfer me. New store, new location, 2 towns over. I said yes. Didn't even think twice. The old apartment felt like a crime scene. I gave notice the same day. Found a small rental near the new store. Installed extra locks, bought a personal alarm, even changed my phone number. Starting over is messy, but sometimes it's the only choice you have. I tried dating again. Once. It didn't last long. He asked why I checked my phone every 5 minutes, why I never wanted to meet at home. I couldn't explain it in a way that made sense, because it wasn't about him. It was about the version of me Riley left behind. The woman who trusted too easily. The one who didn't see the red flags until they were neon. It's been 8 months now. Riley pled out. Got probation, counseling, mandatory no-contact order. But paper can't stop nightmares. Some nights I wake up thinking I hear his boots on the stairs. Other nights I dream he's inside, watching me sleep, smiling. People ask why I'm still scared. I tell them the truth. Because the threat doesn't always come from a stranger in an alley. Sometimes it wears a smile you loved once. It knows how you take your coffee, which window sticks when you open it, where you keep the spare key. I changed everything. But fear? Fear finds its way back. Every Valentine's season I see the displays, plastic hearts, fake roses, and I want to scream. Because that's not love. Love doesn't leave you bleeding emotionally. Love doesn't stalk you, doesn't send threats, doesn't hide behind dumpsters with a bag full of restraints. Love lets go. And the people who don't, they were never loved to begin with. Not all love is safe, and not every goodbye means it's over, especially when obsession replaces affection. Know the signs. Trust your instincts. Because the people who truly love you will never make you feel afraid in your own home. They say you hit rock bottom and then you bounce back. That's a lie. There's no bounce. There's just gravity and pain and silence. I hit bottom 3 years ago when I got drunk before picking up my daughter from school. I never made it. A flat tire on Central Ave saved her from seeing me like that. Cops found me slumped over the wheel in the school parking lot, the pickup still running, the seat soaked in spilled vodka. Her backpack was in the back seat. I haven't seen her since. Court took away custody. Her mother, Serena, took what little was left of my reputation. And I took the night shift at Family Dollar. It wasn't much. A small store on the edge of Albuquerque, where the city blurs into dust and wind. I sat in the back office with a bank of flickering monitors, half of them barely working, all of them covered in the ghost of cigarette smoke and time. Still, it was something. The job didn't ask questions, it just asked me to stay awake and watch. I'd been sober 16 months. The craving never really goes away, but I was learning to live with it. Nights were the hardest. Nothing but your thoughts and the hum of dying fluorescent lights to keep you company. That Sunday night in May started like every other. I clocked in just before midnight, ate a stale sandwich in the break room, punched up the cameras, checked the locks. Around 1:30 a.m., I stepped out for a smoke behind the store. The desert wind was up, dry, sharp, with that low whistle you hear just before a dust storm. I didn't mind it. The wind didn't judge. That's when I saw them. 2 cars parked in the back lot, way past the lights. One white SUV, one silver sedan. The engines were off. I saw 3 men standing around the open trunk of the SUV. One lit a cigarette. Another pulled something heavy from the back. I figured it was a drug deal. We got that kind of thing sometimes. Sketchy business behind the store. Usually harmless, usually fast. But that night was different. One of the men shoved another. Loud voices broke through the wind, angry, urgent. Then, I saw it. A quick jerking motion. One man dropped to the pavement like a marionette with cut strings. The others froze. One looked around. The other ran to the sedan. My heart caught. The cigarette fell from my lips. I turned and sprinted back inside. The radios were dead. My backup had left early, again. I called 911. My voice cracked as I gave the address. I think I just saw a stabbing, maybe a murder. Family Dollar, Central Ave. 2 cars, white SUV, silver sedan. But by the time the words left my mouth, it was already too late. Police showed up fast, lights bouncing off the dusty lot. I met them at the front, waving them through with shaking hands. They didn't find a body, just the white SUV. The trunk was still open, and the inside was a mess. Smears of blood on the lining, a streak along the bumper, like something had been dragged out in a hurry. The silver sedan was gone. I led the officers to the back office, pulled up the camera footage. It was almost useless, grainy, lagging, the angle wrong. The streetlight that usually lit that section of the lot had gone out 2 nights earlier. Nobody had come to fix it. All you could see on the feed were shadows, blurred shapes, a flash of movement. One man lunging, another falling, then nothing. The officer beside me sighed. "You didn't see their faces?" "No," I said. "Too far. Too dark." "You sure the guy didn't just pass out or something?" I looked at him. He didn't fall. He dropped. You don't collapse like that unless something hits deep. He nodded, took notes, but I could tell they didn't have much to go on. They dusted the SUV, found prints, bagged what little evidence they could. A single latex glove, a cigarette butt. One of the officers said it might have been gang-related. Could have been a deal gone sideways. Could have been personal. That was the last I heard from them. For days after, I kept replaying it in my head, over and over. Every detail, every motion, every second. Not the stabbing, the silence. That's what haunted me most. There was no scream, no struggle, just the dry rustle of wind, the sound of a man dying like it didn't matter, like the world didn't notice. I didn't go back the next night. I told my supervisor I needed a day. He gave me one. I took 2. By the time Thursday rolled around, I couldn't make myself put the uniform back on. I stared at it on the chair next to my bed. The patched sleeves, the faded name tag, the polyester collar that always smelled like burnt coffee. I just couldn't. They left me voicemails, said they understood, offered an employee assistance program. I didn't call back. I sat in my apartment in silence for hours. No TV, no music, just the wind tapping at the windows and the hollow feeling of having seen something you couldn't explain. It wasn't just the crime, it was the helplessness. I'd spent so long trying to fix myself, trying to get my daughter back, trying to prove I wasn't some washed-up loser with a bottle in one hand and excuses in the other. And yet, when something real happened, something dangerous, I couldn't stop it. I couldn't do anything but run. That broke something in me. Again. I left Albuquerque by the end of the month, found a small place 2 towns over just outside Los Lunas, rented a room above a dusty motel off Route 6. The manager was a guy named Darren who didn't ask questions, just gave me a mop and told me the lobby floors needed cleaning by sunrise. That suited me fine. No cameras, no overnight shift, no reminders. Sometimes I think about that man in the parking lot, who he was, why it happened, whether someone misses him, or if he was already the kind of person the world forgot. I'll never know, and maybe I don't want to. I kept the police card tucked inside my wallet for a while. Officer Ramirez, just in case they ever called me back. They didn't. The case probably disappeared into a file box somewhere. Just another late-night mystery behind a dollar store where people don't look up when they park. And me? I clean floors now. Watch the sky change colors over the desert. Go to AA meetings on Tuesday nights. Say my daughter's name when no one is around. I've been sober a year and 9 months now. It's a quiet kind of victory. Nobody claps for it. Nobody cares except the people who've had to claw their way back from the same kind of darkness. Some nights I still see the trunk, still hear the wind, still watch that man fall over and over, my mind pausing just before the impact. Not because I want to, but because I was there. Because silence has weight. People talk about trauma like it's an explosion, but sometimes it's a whisper. A thing you almost miss that slips into your bones and changes how you hear the world. I don't miss the job. I don't miss Albuquerque. But I miss the part of me that thought I could start over without scars. That part's gone now. But I still have my sobriety. I still have mornings. And sometimes, that has to be enough. Evil doesn't always shout. Sometimes it comes quiet, unnoticed, just beyond the reach of light. And the real test isn't what you see, it's what you do with it. Witnessing something awful can break you, but it can also wake you up to the world around you. Sometimes the smallest choices, staying sober, staying alive, showing up again, are the bravest ones of all.